Why is it that the more you give, the faster they lose interest? You've lived it, waiting for her reply, paying the bill without a thought, watching her smile at others while your effort fades into the background. Machiavelli warned, endless sacrifice doesn't create respect, it destroys it. Attraction is never born from comfort, it's born from control, from self-respect, from the power to say no. In this video, I'll show you why pleasing women makes you disposable and the dark psychology strategies to reverse it without a word. If kindness ever made you invisible, don't look away. This isn't advice, it's your turning point. 1. The myth of pleasing for love. The moment you tried to buy her happiness was the moment you lost her respect. Think about it. Every dinner where you let her choose, every silence where you swallowed your own desire, every time you paid without hesitation, those actions were not signs of love, they were signs of fear. And fear never creates attraction. Fear only creates invisibility. Mark was 34, an IT consultant in Boston. For years, he believed that being the good guy was his advantage. His friends said he was reliable. Women said he was kind. He was the one who picked them up at the airport, who remembered every birthday, who paid the bill before anyone else reached for their wallet. He thought these gestures would build a foundation of loyalty. But one evening at a rooftop restaurant, the illusion cracked. His girlfriend looked at him across the table, eyes drifting to her phone while he told her about a stressful project. She nodded without listening. Then, with a casual tone, she said, "You're such a nice guy, Mark, but sometimes I wonder if you ever have your own opinion." The words landed like a knife. In that moment, everything he thought made him attractive revealed itself as the very reason she was bored. His kindness was not love to her. It was a routine. It was expected, and expected means disposable. When was the exact moment she stopped listening mid-sentence? Be honest and I will map the move that flips the frame. Drop a few words or type green tick now. He walked her to her car that night, holding the door like he always did. She smiled, thanked him, and drove away. He stood in the parking lot with a hollow chest, realizing he had spent years feeding coins into a broken machine. He thought loyalty was love. She thought loyalty was leverage. Machiavelli exposed this centuries ago. He warned that when you make yourself endlessly useful, you are not chosen, you are consumed. Desire is never born from comfort, desire is born from scarcity. In the theater of love, the man who gives everything freely is not the main character, he is the stagehand who gets forgotten the moment the lights go down. So ask yourself, if love was truly a vending machine, why are you still standing there empty-handed? What comes next is not rejection, it is the moment power shifts, the second you stop performing as her supplier. He thought emotional sacrifice would earn intimacy. She saw it as availability, and availability is the quickest way to become invisible. This is the mirror no one wants to face. Every time you put her comfort above your authenticity, you announce that your own truth is worthless, and what is worthless will never be respected. Here is the first move. Do not explain yourself tonight. Do not overcompensate with flowers or long texts. Let silence speak for you. You will notice something strange. She will lean closer, not because she respects you yet, but because she cannot read you anymore. Uncertainty is the oxygen of attraction. The tragedy is that most men never see this. They keep feeding the machine, believing the next coin will finally release the prize. But the prize never comes, and the more they give, the faster they are replaced. The next part reveals the downward spiral that keeps men trapped in this cycle. Miss it, and you will keep investing in a fantasy that was never designed to reward you. 2. The downward spiral of sacrifice. The moment you gave her everything was the moment she stopped valuing anything. That is the paradox no one tells you. What you thought was proof of love was the very thing that killed desire. She did not drift away because she was cruel. She drifted away because you made yourself too easy to reach, and what is too easy always loses its worth. Ethan was 29, a marketing coordinator in Denver. He believed patience and kindness would win her over. When she canceled dinner, he told himself she was stressed. When she forgot his birthday, he said she was busy. He showed up at her apartment with groceries when she was sick, fixed her car when it broke down, even took time off work to drive her to interviews. He thought his effort was building trust. But one night, as they sat on her couch, she scrolled her phone with a distant look and said, "You're always there for me, Ethan. I just don't feel the spark anymore." Next time she says there is no spark, will you rush to fix it, or hold the silence and let value return? Say it, and I will show you how to turn that pause into power. One word or type fire is enough. The words shattered him. His chest went cold, not from anger, but from recognition. He had been living in a loop, giving more every time she pulled back, thinking the solution was to double his sacrifice. And in that moment, he realized his kindness had become an expectation, not a gift. She did not thank him anymore, she assumed it. His effort no longer created closeness, it created suffocation. He thought his devotion was irresistible. She thought his devotion was replaceable. Machiavelli would call this the mathematics of power. When investment rises while returns collapse, the market declares bankruptcy. Relationships work the same way. Sacrifice without boundaries does not inspire loyalty, it signals desperation. And desperation is the currency of the powerless. What comes next is not punishment from her, it is the invisible law of human nature. The more available you become, the more indifferent she feels. He believed that endless giving would earn intimacy. She saw it as proof that he had nowhere else to go. And a man with nowhere else to go is not a partner. He is a hostage to his own fear. Here is the immediate correction. Stop offering solutions before they are asked for. Stop rearranging your life before she invests anything real. Tonight, let one of her texts sit unanswered, not to play games, but to breathe. You will notice something subtle. She will pause, not because she suddenly respects you, but because uncertainty has returned, and uncertainty makes presence valuable again. The tragedy is that most men double down instead. They hear no spark and think more flowers, more favors, more sacrifice. They feed the illusion until it consumes them, and in the end, they are left wondering why the very thing they gave the most, loyalty, was the first thing discarded. The next part reveals the utility trap, where sacrifice does not just make you invisible, it reduces you to a tool, a background function in her life. Skip it, and you will keep serving as someone else's convenience rather than living as your own authority. 3. The utility trap. The moment she realized you would always say yes was the moment she stopped seeing you as a man and started seeing you as a function. That is the quiet death of desire. What you thought was devotion became convenience. And convenience never inspires respect. It only creates comfort until something more exciting arrives. Daniel was 36, a project manager in Phoenix. His girlfriend often told friends that he was such a good guy. He helped her move apartments, drove her to the airport at 4 in the morning, stayed up fixing her laptop when he was exhausted from work. Every time she needed, he delivered. He thought this made him indispensable. One evening at a family barbecue, he overheard her cousin ask why she was still with him. She laughed lightly and said, "Because he takes care of everything. He is reliable." Her eyes did not shine when she said it. They dulled. Daniel felt his stomach drop. In that single phrase, he was no longer a partner. He was a service. The more he gave, the more invisible he became. The truth hit with ice. She was not choosing him. She was using him. He thought reliability was security. She thought reliability was replaceability. When did you say yes, even though you felt yourself becoming a function, not a man? Tell me, and I will show you how to stop being convenience and start being choice. Write a few words or type X. Machiavelli revealed this centuries ago. He warned that those who make themselves endlessly available are not respected, they are consumed. In the game of power, The one who offers himself without limit is treated like public property. A fountain in the park is free to everyone. No one worships the fountain. They just drink and move on. So ask yourself, are you her choice or are you her convenience? What comes next is not a love story. It is the law of human psychology that punishes availability and rewards scarcity. He believed that showing up for everything proved value. She saw it as proof that his value was common, like air, and nothing common ever feels special. Here is the shift you must make. Do not volunteer your time for every demand. Do not rush to prove you are reliable before anyone has invested in you. Today, let one request pass. Not to be cruel, but to remind yourself that your presence has weight. You will notice the reaction. She will pause. She will ask. She will wonder. Not because she suddenly respects you, but because absence makes her measure what was once free. Most men never see this trap. They think being a constant provider guarantees loyalty. But what is constant becomes background noise. And what is background noise is always tuned out. The next part exposes the fear behind this facade. Why men pretend kindness while secretly acting from terror. If you skip it, you will stay locked in the role of utility, serving everyone while no one truly chooses you. 4. The fear behind the facade. The moment she sensed you would never risk losing her was the moment desire left the room. She did not drift because you treated her well. She drifted because your kindness smelled like fear. Attention that costs nothing does not make anyone feel chosen. It only proves that you have nowhere else to stand. Noah was 33, a teacher in Seattle. He built their routine with careful devotion. Morning coffee in her favorite mug, midday check-ins, late-night drives, anytime she felt restless. He canceled basketball with friends when she hinted that she was tired. He answered every message within minutes, even during class breaks. He believed consistency would calm her doubt. One Sunday, in a crowded grocery aisle, she watched him place her oat milk in the cart and said, very softly, "You are always here. I never worry you will leave." Her eyes were warm and distant at the same time. He felt his chest go cold as the carton slid from his grip and tapped the metal frame. In that quiet sound, he heard the truth. She did not feel chosen. She felt certain. And certainty killed the spark he kept trying to feed. When do you reply fast, just to escape anxiety? Admit it, and I will give you the breathing sequence that turns delay into leverage. One word or type clock, and I will guide you. Machiavelli would name the curtain that just fell. When a man tries to buy safety with surrender, the story writes him out of its exciting scenes. On the chessboard of desire, pieces that never move are not protected. They are ignored. Rarity creates value. Predictability erases it. What comes next is not cruelty from her. It is the quiet shift that happens when attention becomes automatic and therefore weightless. He believed that availability proved devotion. She read it as proof that he could not walk away, and no one truly wants what would never leave, no matter how they treat it. Here is the correction that begins tonight. Delay one reply. Decline one favor. Do not explain either choice. Let the pause breathe until curiosity returns. You will notice a small but real change. She leans in, not to hear better, but to understand what you are not saying. Unreadable presence feels valuable again. Most men will cover this fear with noble words. They will call it kindness and thoughtfulness and loyalty. Yet underneath is the same tremor that asks others to carry their worth. Fear contaminates every gesture. It makes warmth feel like pleading. It turns romance into damage control. A man who cannot stand alone cannot be seen as someone worth standing beside. They dress fear in soft language. They say that they want peace. That is why they avoid talks. They say they want to give love. That is why they erase needs. They say that they want to be different from cruel men. That is why they become easy to use. Under the smile lives a bargain that no one names. If this stings, good, it means the mask is cracking. The next part reveals the performance of pleasing, the role that keeps men acting while their real life waits backstage. Skip it, and the show goes on without you. Stay, and you will learn how the mask comes off and how the real man walks onto his own stage. 5. The performance of pleasing. The moment she sensed you would never risk losing her was the moment desire dimmed. She did not drift because you were kind. She drifted because your yes felt automatic. Attention that costs nothing does not make anyone feel chosen. It proves that you are afraid of silence, afraid of a no, afraid that the real you will not survive contact. Evan is 34, a project coordinator in Portland. He studies her like homework. He brings the right coffee, remembers the playlist, avoids topics that might spark heat. When a plan changes, he smiles first and swallows later. At a Sunday flea market, he notices her linger at a framed map of Rome. He buys it at once, eager to show that he sees her. For a second, her eyes light. Then he catches a tiny stiffening at the mouth. A half-second of distance. That night on the rug, she says that nothing feels exciting anymore. If you could speak to the version of you who performed to be liked, what would you say? Be ruthless, and I will rewrite it in a Machiavellian voice you can use tonight. One short sentence or typebook. Machiavelli would call this theater. In the theater of desire, the actor who plays a mask too perfectly erases himself. Respect grows from tension, not from perfect alignment. A face that never risks a boundary becomes a menu. People do not bond with menus. They order and leave. Dark law that a performance built to avoid loss creates a different kind of loss, that the loss of self. What comes next is not rejection. It is the quiet shift that happens when attention becomes free, when presence arrives before it is requested, when every answer lands too quickly. In that world, nothing scarce exists, and nothing scarce is valued. He thought harmony was intimacy. She felt harmony as management. He thought constant explanation was care. She felt constant explanation as fear. He thought saying yes built trust. She felt every yes as proof that he would never walk. Cold mirror that he trained her to stop listening by removing the risk that he might refuse. Here is the move that begins tonight. Say less. Do not rush to fill the gap. Let one request wait and let one urge to explain pass without action. If worry rises, breathe and hold your line. You will notice a strange response. She will lean in, not to hear better, but to read what you are not revealing. Unreadable presence begins to feel valuable again. You are filtering. In 30 seconds, you will see how silence becomes a signal and how scarcity turns into leverage. Most men cannot tolerate that pause. They dress fear in noble words. They claim they want peace, so they avoid the talk. They claim they love deeply, so they erase their needs. They claim they are unlike cruel men, so they become easy to use. The truth is simple, that the performance is not kindness. The performance is a shield that hides the belief that the real man is not enough. If this stings, good, the mask is already cracking. Up next is the respect paradox, where a single no raises value in ways that 1,000 yes can never match. Miss it, and you will keep acting inside someone else's fantasy while your life waits behind the curtain. Stay, and the next part hands you the sequence that turns presence into gravity and silence into choice now. 6. The respect paradox. Respect arrives when it is expected, not when it is begged. The moment she felt that you would trade truth for approval was the moment respect left the room. She did not turn away because you were gentle. She turned away because your yes carried no risk. What carries no risk carries no weight, and what carries no weight cannot lead. Marcus is 35, a civil engineer in Atlanta. He likes order. He checks her calendar, pays the bills on time, cooks on Thursdays because she hates cooking after spin class. When her sister needs a ride, he offers before she asks. He believes that steady giving will build a fortress of trust. At a hardware store on a rainy Saturday, she studies paint samples while he holds the cart. She sighs and says that she never has to guess with him. He smiles, thinking it is praise. Then he notices the tiny hardening at the corners of her mouth, the quick glance at the door, the slow exhale that sounds like relief. In the car, she stares at the wipers and whispers that life with him feels safe and dull. When he asks what dull means, she says that he never risks a no, that he never draws a line, that she cannot feel where he begins. The words sit between them like cold metal. He nods politely and drives on, and in the quiet he realizes that he has become a routine that anyone could run. Which boundary will you set this week that she cannot step over? State it, and I will show you how to defend it without drama. One word or type shield to begin. Machiavelli would say that people respect what can refuse them. In the game of power, a boundary acts like the edge of a blade. It cuts false harmony and protects real value. A man who never risks displeasure becomes a mask with a smile. A mask wins applause, then collects dust. Pull the mask away and a face appears that is capable of no. That is the face that invites respect. What comes next is not noise. It is the move that makes them addicted to your absence when you choose to disappear for a moment. He gave certainty and called it love. She received certainty and felt the weight of boredom. He tried to earn respect by removing conflict and taught her that his voice did not matter. She read his patience as fear, his gifts as control of his own anxiety, his constant yes as proof that he would never leave. He believed that exposure was closeness. She believed that surrender was victory. Cold mirror that the man who expects nothing from himself asks others to believe in what he will not defend. Say no to one small request today. Do not explain. Choose one boundary that matters and keep it for 24 hours, even if your chest tightens. If fear rises, remember that the next part gives a simple map for announcing standards without creating chaos, and that people lean in to understand what you will not give away. Hold one calm breath before you answer. Stand firm. The next chapter is the conclusion that ties every law into a clear sequence you can use tonight. Miss it, and the same approval loop will restart under a new name. Skip what comes next, and you will keep performing in someone else's script while your authority waits outside the door. This is where everything comes full circle. What you just watched was not about tricks. It was a return to power through silence, scarcity, and boundaries chosen on purpose. Less performance creates more gravity. Less chasing creates more respect. When presence becomes selective, desire remembers your value. This is not about being cold, it is about being clear. You do not need to beg to be chosen. You do not need to over-explain to be understood. When you expect respect, the room adjusts. When you hold one calm no, your yes becomes rare and worth leaning toward. A viewer named Adrian wrote to us last month. He is a sales manager in Dallas who spent years overgiving and fixing every mood before it formed. He decided to slow his replies, set one weekly boundary, and stop explaining small delays. 2 weeks later, the dynamic flipped. She reached out first, asked what his plans were, and mirrored his pace. His message to anyone who is still performing hits hard. Respect begins where convenience ends. You could be next. Subscribe now, because the shift starts quietly and changes everything.